welcome to our TracerPlus Calculation Fields webinar. I'll be your presenter today, Joe Crable. So I'm going to open up my TracerPlus desktop tool, and we're going to go ahead and create a new project. Let's call it Calc Demo. I'm going to create a session, and we'll go to that session. And what we'll do, first I'll show you the basics of, or basically what's available with our calculated fields. So if I select Calculated and then go to this Calculated Options tab, you'll see up at the top is the function you want to do. We have the common mathematical functions such as add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We have a min-max function, which basically takes the min or max value comparison between two or more fields. The left, mid, and right is our parsing options, where you can actually parse barcode data, such as something scanned like a driver's license or an ID that contains multiple lines of information. You can use those three functions to parse out the different values into different fields. And lastly, we have GPS latitude and longitude. Pretty straightforward. If your device has built-in GPS capabilities, you can capture the current latitude and longitude of your current position. So this first demo I'm going to do here is the mathematical type calculations and kind of show you how those work. So I'll go ahead and name some fields here. So the first one we're going to do is field 1 plus field 2. And I will take field 4 minus field 3. Then we'll take field 5 and multiply that by a constant of 50. And let's say the last thing I do here is field 6 divided by field 7. And actually, let's do a min. A min and a max. So now that I've defined my field names, I'm going to go ahead and set my calc fields appropriately. You'll see this one is calculated already. You'll notice we have some data types here, general versus number. For all mathematical calculations, this field should be set to number. So I'm going to do that now. If you happen to do a general data type with the add function, it will actually concatenate whatever field you have added as a string. So that's also useful. So let me just finish setting all my fields appropriately. Okay, so let's go back up to our first calc field, go to our calculated options, and we're going to add 1 plus 2, so you'll see our function is add. Then in this section here below, this is where we can add up to 10 different operands. So we can add, subtract, multiply, divide up to 10 different fields. So the first thing I'll do is select my first operand, which is field 1, op 1. I'll hit click insert, and I'll select the second one, click insert, and you can see down here the results, or what your results should look like. Op 1 plus op 2. We also have a decimal places field down here where you can carry up to 6 decimal places. So if you're doing division or any type of price adding, that would be useful. We also have a currency checkbox here which will show the $sign if you enable that for that field. Okay, we'll go to our next calc field, which is field 4 minus field 3, so we'll select subtract. Then we'll go ahead and select field 4, which happens to be op 3, and we're subtracting that from field 3, so we'll select F1 plus F2. You'll notice that in this drop-down it takes whatever field names you have in your session. So I'll select that and click insert. Also in this result area, you'll see if we're using another calc field as one of our operands, you'll see it actually show that calculation of field 1 plus field 2. Okay, for this one we're going to multiply it by 50. So first we'll select our field 5, which is F4 minus F3. And then to use a constant in your calculation, just simply type it into this area up here. So I'll type in 50, click Insert, and there it is, shows up as constant 50. Go to our division calculation. We'll go ahead and select Divide. And we're dividing 6 by 7, so first we'll select our field 6, Insert, and then field 7. Since this may not be a whole number, I'll go ahead and put the decimal places out to 2. And we'll set our min-max. So we'll set a min, and let's say we'll take the minimum value between field 1 and field 2. And then we'll also do the same thing for max. So now we've defined our form, or our field settings. I'll just go ahead and create a default form real quick, and I'll deploy it to my mobile device. Okay, we'll slide this over, open up our form. So you'll see that before calculations are even done, that everything defaults to 0, or all the calculated fields default to 0. So if I go ahead and enter some fields here, or values, let's say 20 plus 50. So you'll see so far it'll start to do some calculations. We have our field 1 plus field 2, and that's going to equal 70. And you'll see some other stuff going on down here because we haven't completed the other operands. So now we'll go ahead, let's say we're going to subtract 150 minus 70, so that gives us 80. Times 50 gives us 4,000. And let's divide that by 25, which gives us a value of 160. You'll also notice if I change some values up here, it affects all the calculations. So if I change that to 30, everything else is going to change. You also see our min-max. The minimum value between 30 and 50 is 30, and the max is 50. Change this to 25. You just constantly see it changing as you update some of these operators. Okay, so that's the basics of the mathematical calculations. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the barcode parsing. Keep in mind it doesn't have to always be a barcode. It could be something that's keyed into a field or even something that's RFID. So what I'm going to do is create a second session here. And our first field will be our scan. And then let's say from this barcode, we want to grab the left 3 characters into field 2, the middle 3 characters into field 3, and the right 3 characters into field 4. So what we do, the scan field, that's set to text. There's no need to change that. For our left, mid, and right fields, we'll go ahead and set those to calculated. Data types will stay at general. And if I go to my calculated options, so if I want to do a left 3, we're going to go ahead to the function of left. And you'll see that this area below changes to be specific for parse settings. So in our parameters, our source field is going to be where we're getting this data from, so it's going to be the scan field. And then we have different types of parsing. There's index parsing and char parsing, or basically character. Index just goes position, so if we go left 3, it's just going to go 3 from the left of the start of the barcode. I'll also show some character parsing after we complete this. So mid 3, we'll set mid. The source is going to be scan. The index, I'm going to start at character 4, and I'm going to go 3 characters, or 3 positions, I should say. Then finally, the right, we'll go ahead and set the function to right. Source is scan, index of 3. So I'll go ahead and save this, build a default form, and deploy. So I'll go to my session 2, and I'll go ahead and key something in here. So if I enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and hit enter, you'll see the left 3. It grabs this left 3 here. Our mid was starting at position 4 and going 3 positions, which happens to be 4, 5, 6. And then the right 3 was the 7, 8, 9. I happen to enter something a little larger. Let's say 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4. You'll see that that changes up a little bit. So now that we've shown the index parsing, I'm going to go ahead and show you what the char or character parsing does. So we'll go back to our same session here, and left, instead of index, we'll change this to char. And we'll say we're going to parse where it's a value of AB, or a character of AB. Depending on your barcode, lots of manufacturers use different delimiters. For driver's license, I believe it's a 3-character string of text. But I'll select a char here. We'll say AB. And then you'll also notice this occurrence field. So if you have multiple delimiters that are the same, you can choose which occurrence you want to parse from. So let's say we want to go, for the mid parse, we're going to go from the first AB we see to the second AB we see in the barcode. And then for the rights, we want to grab the end of that barcode, so we're going to go right from the second occurrence of that. So I'll save and deploy this. Go to my device, session 2. So if I go there you have it. We have our AB delimiters in that string up top. So our first one was to go left from the first occurrence, which is all those ones. Our mid parse was the first AB to the second AB, which happens to be all these 2s. And then our right parse was from the second AB, so it grabbed the remaining 3s there. So you can see how this can be useful for scanning barcodes that contain multiple information, or even most 2D barcodes, which do contain multiple lines of information. One last thing I'm going to show you from scratch here is the dynamic parsing. So I'll add a third session. So this basically allows you to variably parse based on a field value. So if you select a supplier, for example, they may have different parsing variables or different delimiters or different positions within the barcode. So we can actually accommodate that based on the supplier, look up a certain value and then parse based on that. So let's say field 1 is our value field. Field 2 will be our scan. And then field 3 will be our parse. So for our parse, we set that to calculated. Go over to calculated options. Let's say we'll do a left parse of the scan field. Then we'll set this to char, or character. So the value, you'll notice there's a drop down here where you can actually select the value. Other than some default delimiters, we actually have the list of fields within this session. So I'm going to parse based on whatever value is in this value field, or field 1, which when selected shows up as 0. It's going off a 0-based index. So field 1 is 0, field 2 is 1, and so on. So I'll go ahead and build the default form here, deploy. Go to our session 3. So let's enter a value of A. Notice that this can also be looked up based on some selection. But we'll do A. And then I'll do 1, 2, 3, A, 4, 5, 6, B, 7, 8, 9, C, 1, 1, 1. So if I'm doing a left parse of A, it's going to just grab 1, 2, 3. But now if I were to change this value to B, you'll see it's grabbing, 1, 2, 3, 8, 4, 5, 6, everything to the left of B. So you'll see this dynamically changing as I change this value here. If I select C, it's going to grab everything to the left of C. So that's something that may come in handy for, those barcodes or where you have different suppliers that have different types of requirements. So that's the basics of calculations. and how we create them from scratch. So now what I'm going to do is show you a couple of applications from our Solution Center.